The Quintessential Quintuplets has quickly become one of my favorite harem romantic comedy shows. The first part of this video will have no spoilers and just sort of have my general review. The second part will be more in depth and have spoilers from season 1, 2, and the movie. Timestamps will be below. Maybe it's just my recency bias, but I feel like Quintuplets is up there with Love is War and Toradora. I figured that this would be a harem show with 5 sisters falling in love with one guy, but I didn't expect the characters to get such great development. What got me initially invested in the show was knowing that Futaro would end up marrying one of the 5 sisters, since the story is sort of being told as a flashback of how he met his wife. The premise of the story was really interesting. The main character, Futaro, doesn't have a lot of money, but sort of scores big by landing a job where he has to tutor 5 rich girls. The pay looks like it's going to be really good, but the problem is that he sort of individually gets them all to dislike him. The first major goal of the story is him trying to convince all of the 5 sisters to let him tutor them. We get to see him individually attempt to win them over, and it creates a lot of really funny scenes, and it introduces us to all of the 5 sisters. The second season was when things started to get a bit juicier. With the intros out of the way, the story starts to intensify. While the 5 girls are all identical quintuplets, they're all very different. We get to see that they do love to be together, but also struggle to balance growing into their own individual selves too. Some of them also get more assertive in their quest to win over Futaro. Since we learned all about each of the girls' personalities in the first season, it was interesting to see all of their approaches to winning. While I did enjoy the movie, I wish that it was a 3rd season instead. The movie continues where season 2 left off, and we get to explore more about the past of the quintuplets. We also finally get to see which one of the 5 quintuplets Futaro chooses to be with and why. If you easily get annoyed by any harem type of shows, then you probably should avoid this. If not, I think that you'll find this series to be really great. Each of the girls gets great character development, and even if your favorite girl doesn't win, you'll at least understand why Futaro chooses who he does. So now let's get into spoiler territory. Like I said earlier, one of the series' biggest strengths was the character development of each of the quintuplets. In order of least to favorite, these are my thoughts on the 5 sisters. Ichika was initially in the middle of the pack for me in 3rd place. I enjoyed her backstory, showing that she had been a lot more immature in their younger days, but decided to step up and be an older sister after their mother passed. She was the most level-headed personality-wise, and she even took on every job that she could to help pay for her and her sisters to move out so that Futaro could continue to tutor them. Her stepping up to be a big sister tied in with her acting career. She was just as vulnerable as the rest of her sisters, but had to constantly keep up a facade as a smiling older sister to keep them all at ease. And that was probably why she became such a great actress. She had a lot of practice every day at home. I think that she fell for Futaro because he saw through the facade and wanted her to be real with him. She seemed to like that he supported her even though he knew she wasn't really as strong as she acted. But her confession was what moved her to the bottom of my list. Ichika didn't have the same confidence as Nino to be direct with Futaro, so the only way she was able to convey her feelings to him was while in disguise as Miku. At the time, Miku was my favorite, so I was pretty mad at her trying to kill Miku's chances at winning. Nino started off at the very bottom of my list. Nino was arrogant, annoying, and rude, and to top it off, she even drugged Futaro. But her reasoning for being this way makes a whole lot of sense though. She acts like this because she's the most sensitive of her sisters. She also had the least desire to be an individual and wanted to keep everyone together. I think she saw Futaro as an outsider that could potentially drive them even further apart. Ironically, her resistance to tutoring didn't really help though. If she had accepted Futaro sooner, they could have all bonded while studying a lot earlier on. I think that she took the second longest to fall for Futaro. I feel like it started as early as the fireworks arc. Futaro realized how important it was to Nino that all of the sisters watch it together, and I think she liked that he was able to get them together to make their own fireworks in the park. The physical attraction part was through Kintaro. I found it so funny that him looking like a delinquent made him seem like her type. I think she said something along the lines of, "I'll probably have to support him," or something like that when she saw a picture of a younger delinquent looking Futaro. Or that time when he tried to scare her off by saying he wanted to do some underage drinking, but it only made her like him more. When she realized Futaro was Kintaro, I think she finally realized that she was physically attracted to Futaro too. Then when he helped her with her daddy issues, that was the final straw, and then she was all in. Even though I personally found Nino to be annoying through a lot of the series, her confession was easily the best one. I sort of expected Futaro to not hear her over the motorcycle, so it was funny when she sort of hesitated and asked him to forget it when he didn't even hear her in the first place. What I didn't expect was for her to come back and make it very clear what she had just said. With Itsuki being the first girl shown, I actually thought that she was going to win. Isn't there a rule where the first girl shown usually wins or something? I also thought that she would be the winner since she was the first to meet his family. She got comfortable hanging around at his house and even slept over. And there was also the arcade date and the family photo they took together with Raiha. I think that Itsuki had every reason to hate Futaro at first though, since he was super rude to her when they first met. At first, she seemed to think that he cared more about money than actually helping her and her sisters. But when he tried to refuse the first paycheck since he felt like he hadn't really made any progress and that his reason for doing all this was for his family, she warmed up to him. Itsuki's character arc seemed to show that she didn't really know herself because she was spending so much time trying to be like her mother. I enjoyed her character arc of figuring out that she wanted to be a teacher like her mother, even though her mother told her not to. I thought that the arc with her biological father father was interesting, but it was a bit too rushed. I don't know, maybe him disappearing as fast as he showed up was sort of the point, since he also quickly ran away when he found out that he was about to father quintuplets with his former student. I thought that it was cool that she accepted that the dream of being a teacher was hers and that there was nothing wrong with her being inspired by her late mother. I think that her not being honest with herself also applied to her feelings for Futaro. It seemed like she unintentionally fell for him back when she was spending time with him and his family, but didn't really accept it until way later. She had the most subtle confession when she told him that the moon looked beautiful on that one night. Like so many other fans of the series, Miku was originally my favorite. I liked her the most initially because she's the most similar to my wife in real life. My wife is the shy, humble type too. We watched the show together actually, but she was Team Miku all the way to the very end. So I would say that Miku had the most personal growth in this series. Everything about her showed her lack of confidence in herself. Her hair covers her face, she speaks softly, etc. I thought that it made perfect sense to have those personality traits on the middle child. On screen, she was the first one to fall for Futaro and accept her feelings due to them connecting over her love for Japanese warlords. After that, I felt like she liked him because he supported her and made her feel more confident. I think that Miku put in the most work to try and become Futaro's ideal girl. She had some of the funniest moments in the show with her poor cooking skills, but because he listed good at cooking as one of his ideal traits in a girl, she dedicated a lot of time to improving. Even though she didn't end up winning, her growth with cooking was amazing. She didn't start off naturally good at cooking, but Futaro helped indirectly push her to want to practice and get better. By the end of the series, she had a cafe with Nino, who she previously clashed with the most, didn't suck at cooking anymore, and seemed more confident in herself. I thought that her confession was really wholesome. Given her shy personality, I actually didn't expect her to give such a direct confession, but her faking him out after made it feel more like her. When I first started watching the show, Yotsuba was actually the last person who I thought would win. It's funny looking back at that now, since there were hints like her being the first to confess but then passing it off as a lie, or being the first to kiss him on the cheek, or holding onto his finger during the school trip. Something different about Yotsuba versus her sisters is that most of her on-screen growth happened towards the later part of the series. Earlier on, they did show her flaw of being unable to say no to anyone and was always trying to be helpful, but we didn't really know why she was that way until the movie. As a quintuplet, Nino loved the idea of them all being together and similar, but Yotsuba wanted more. Lots of us want to be seen as individuals, so I think it was relatable that she wanted to be seen as her own person rather than just one of the 5 sisters. After her mother died, her adopted father didn't really give her the same sort of praise she was used to getting from her mom. I think as a coping mechanism for losing her mom, she went out and sought out success and praise from multiple sports clubs. She messed up big by becoming selfish and focusing too hard on being an individual that she didn't show any love to her sisters. After she failed, had to transfer schools, and then had her sisters willingly transfer with her, she learned the importance of family and it made her a better and more selfless person. I read a lot of comments about how people felt that the ending was rushed or that Yotsuba didn't do anything to deserve to win, but I fully disagree with that even though I initially wanted Miku to win. The main reason he fell for Yotsuba was because of how she treated him while they were in high school. From the start of the tutoring, Yotsuba was always supporting Futaro. Literally everyone else rejected him initially. He always seemed to be the most comfortable when he was with her too. Unlike Nino and Miku, Yotsuba naturally was the best fit for him and she didn't have to try and change herself to mesh well with him. Yotsuba loved Futaro for all those years and even remembered him when he was first hired as their tutor. But as she saw her sisters all fall for him, she didn't say anything despite her feelings because she couldn't bear to hurt them. Although when his childhood friend showed up at the school festival and was getting kinda close to Futaro, I found it interesting that Yotsuba picked that time to assert that she was the closest to Futaro. That really showed that she would only be willing to hold back her feelings for the sake of her sisters. If any other girl tried anything, she looked like she was ready to fight. I also really liked that if it weren't for her, Futaro still would have been a delinquent. She was the one that planted the idea in his head as a kid that he should study to make life easier for his family. A lot of who he became was thanks to meeting her in the past. So even though she did have a bit of an unfair advantage by meeting him as a kid, she still earned her win. I love this series and I'm really sad that it's over. I really enjoyed the journey and creating this review is sort of helping me give the closure to move on and watch the next thing. Thanks for watching.